So what is the dark side of academia? The harsh truth is that one person doesn't matter. I have a very clear message for you, and this way out is find purpose. My biggest wish is to grow a community. If you want a work-life balance, well, then search for the job and the purpose in life that fits this wish. But if you like to work, then the work might be also your life. It is Sunday and I'm a little bit procrastinating, which I allow myself. But I also would like to use the chance to talk about, or I decided to talk about something on my channel in this video today that is true for all of us. In my podcast series, I already addressed some aspects, but I was very careful not to touch this work-life balance and mental health issues, because you can easily go into a direction to paint everything black, and that helps nobody. I'm absolutely convinced it helps nobody. Of course, there is also a dark side to this specific job, and I'm talking about academia, academic research in science specifically, with fixed term contracts and the limited perspective on a safe job. Let's go for a walk. Okay, here we are. It's nice to walk a little bit outside. It's pretty cold and very dry today. The title of this video will be 20 years academia almost broke me. Like I said in the introduction, it is a very difficult topic that easily can turn into something just very negative, and I don't think looking at things just black and white helps the matter, because it's a grayscale, although some days feel very black and some very bright, and then there is the in-between. For those of you who didn't watch any of my previous videos and the title and thumbnail attracted you to this very video, which is a little different. I'm a biochemist by training, worked in cell biology, now I'm a geneticist. All of my scientific life I was always interested in basic research, but in mind having the bigger picture and benefit to human health. So that's where I've seen my strength for the past 20 years. So I got my PhD in 2013. We are in 2025, it's almost over now. I'm turning 44 in December. So if you include my PhD, it's a long time that I'm doing this job. And I have always worked on fixed term contracts. I also discussed this in one of my podcast series, how it feels like. I'm not a professor yet. I'm a senior researcher here, employed. And I'm working on a project that is funded by the German Research Foundation. I'm not only doing lab stuff, as a lot of you know, and I hope a lot of you academics will watch this video, but for those of you who are not academics or life scientists, we have like a gazillion of jobs. I'm, for example, a wet lab researcher. That means I am actively pipetting in the lab, doing experiments. I have to gain the expertise by reading the literature to learn about the topics and establish protocols for doing these experiments. So I'm a little workflow optimizer, and also I supervise the next generation in the lab, so bachelor students and master students, PhD students, all the newcomers. And also a very big pillar of outside lab work is teaching. I have teaching duties that are pretty independent. I'm running a whole module, it's called. So it's a combination of lectures, seminars and a lab course, and this is what students can choose when they are close to their bachelor thesis. And I'm really proud about this module because it prepares the students for their bachelor thesis in any lab that they will encounter, with all the things that they need to be equipped with, from lab book writing to reading literature about presenting their work and writing lab reports, which will be then very helpful for writing their bachelor thesis. And in this past, let's say 8 years, when I also looked out for more independent options, at the workplace, I actively really stepped into the didactics behind teaching. Because teaching, no matter what you do in science, you will mostly be involved in teaching. And also people that are not affiliated directly with a university often do seminars and teaching content. So it's not a bad idea to know exactly what you're doing, also because the workload when getting there to independence will be that huge that it can almost crush people, and then it's not a bad idea to have a strategy at hand for both the lab side, the strategic scientific planning management side, but also the educational side. And that's where I invested a lot of time, because I was also really interested in that and curious to learn how I can even get better at that. And the purpose is to help students learn better. I do research, I do teaching, and of course there is a lot more to it. Deal with admin stuff. I also wrote a GenTech application for the lab course, and I'm responsible for some of these administrative and organizational things that are also part of a science lab. So we have a lot of jobs, and with age comes experience, and with experience comes more and more and more tiny tasks that are all piling up. So it's a pretty big job. What I don't have at this moment is the responsibility over people, personnel, because I don't have independent funding at this point in my life. I'm employed and I do all these jobs, but luckily at this point I don't have to have sleepless nights thinking about how to pay any co-workers. That's up to my boss at this point. Now, how to transition into work-life balance and mental health. What I just said, with all the tasks that we academics have, everyone who does it knows, and everyone who does not have it can imagine at this point that it can be really hard to manage all of this at all times. And then if you're also involved in teaching with a sole responsibility of preparation of the course and so on, it doesn't matter if it's just one course, one lecture, or if it's spanning the semester. We prepare basically before the semester starts, which is the break, the so-called semester break or semester holidays. And then when the semester starts, there is basically mayhem, because you have to do everything at once. And no matter how well planned, often there are things that we cannot control, because there are so many people involved and so many admin things involved in a huge system like a university, for example. Okay, that's I'm beating around the bush a little bit. I want this channel to be something positive, where you can get some inspiration and information about teaching. My biggest wish is that this channel is building a community of people that are academics. They can be like fresh-baked postdocs that don't know really if they would stay in academia or not, people that go actively into the professorship trajectory, and also people that are more senior like I am, because we are many in our 40s that are embedded in the university system, but we don't have these very rare, rather safe positions. There are more out there that are like myself, but it is very hard to get into a community. I think it's luck to find a community, because the developmental stages are just spanning 4 years in academia, and then you transition into the next phase. So mostly, that's my personal experience. You can let me know what your experience is, and I'm really happy for you if you found a community that grows together with you from your PhD. That's of course a great benefit if you can have a community that grows into your network together with you when you walk through all the stages. But the reality often is, and I've seen this with many of the people that I met, that we are pretty isolated at some point. It is a reality that, in my opinion, and I said this already when I was a PhD student, in my opinion, you cannot be a scientist when you do a 9 to 5, and as soon as you close the door to the lab or the institute, your mind goes completely blank of that part of your life and you focus on other things. I'm not saying you have to stay long time in the lab and like only work, but the mind of a creative job like this, and this is to be debatable, it would be a totally separate video if you also agree that being a scientist is a very creative and demanding job. It is filling up the life, and it's not dependent on a 9 to 5 clock. So now, what is work-life balance? If you want a work-life balance, well then search for the job and the purpose in life that fits this wish, how to organize your life. But if you like to work, then the work might be also your life. I identify very much with my job. I knew when I was in school that I will be a scientist, that I have a scientific mind, basically, that I'm curious about the basic principles of the world and how everything is connected, and understand the bigger picture using this knowledge, and also like combinatorial aspects to have to see things by thinking about them before you can look for them and prove them. That was always fascinating and absolutely interesting for me, and that's what I do in my science daily life. So okay, I'm still beating around the bush. What is work-life balance? Well, so mental health, work-life balance came up because there were several surveys that PhD students and postdocs are sick, they are unhappy, the depression rates are high, there are a lot of people that want to quit academia for good, and the frustration level is just very high. With these hashtags and media mentions of the topic, there came some very good developments, which is being aware that you should take care of yourself and that it's okay to have a bad phase. However, I must say, I don't want to make comparisons here because it's out of my scope. But in my view, although it seems to be acceptable to have a bad phase or be depressive or have a mental health issue, it will be not talked about, but it's not accepted. That's my personal view. So I see this more like it is handled transparently and openly in the online world and in media, but if you go into the real world, you better do your job, because we are all replaceable. Everybody is replaceable with these fixed-term contracts and what we do. The harsh truth is that one person doesn't matter, and that's why we also see some people silently disappear and we will never hear or see of them again. And I'm sure you have too, so let me know if you noticed somebody silently disappearing out of the system, and suddenly they're gone from academia. So what is the dark side of academia, and why did these 2 decades in the university and academic research environment almost I'm not yet crushed. I'm still here, still doing things like this YouTube channel, for example. but we will get there. Okay, what is the dark side? Well, for example, in academia, and like I said, I'm sure it's the same in many other jobs, I'm just talking for this academia side. We have to constantly make decisions without any knowledge or experience where this decision will lead us. So it's a bit of luck. And we can obviously do research and check out, okay, what would be a good characteristic for the lab to go to for my PhD or for my postdoc, and what would I need from my supervisor, personality-wise, networking and supervision-wise, to go into the next steps of the career that I dream about. Again, at the stage where we make these decisions, it's mostly that we cannot put into perspective the things that other people teach us in workshops because we have no experience. So yeah, there is a little bit of active fine-tuning, and yeah, obviously we don't go to labs that are unhealthy or where we don't get any support or where we don't fit in. But another reality is that it's a little bit a taboo to quit for the sake of changing jobs because it's not working for us. So that's, in my view, happening not often enough, that people say after half a year or a year is a good time frame. And then you can decide, is this where I want to do my PhD, or do I take with me what I learned and go to a place where I really want to spend my effort day and night 24/7 for the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, so we make decisions constantly that we can't judge all the variables, but that's true also for a lot of other people. Then if we want to go for independence, there are also some, at least in Germany now, there are some laws and restrictions that are not very supportive. They are meant to be supportive, but they can be in the way, especially for people my age. I don't feel that I'm a loser in the academic system. On the contrary, I do exactly what I always wanted to do, which is research. But I don't want to go into too much detail because at this point, like I said, I'm employed and I don't have official independence. I'm not a group leader. And there are these laws and bylaws for people that are, this is only interesting for people that are in Germany, but your time is basically ticking up and it's not possible to work endlessly on fixed-term contracts at a university. It's not the whole truth to this, but this video is also not about that. In other words, there are laws and regulations that should help people like me and in our 30s, 40s to settle into independence and get independent jobs as junior professors, group leaders, and so on. Called the qualification phase. And then after that there is not really space for researchers. But we, and I say we, the 40-somethings which are experienced, we often carry the weight of the teaching at universities together with the professors around, because as you know, the workload is pretty huge. So people with experience on all levels are required, and we need more people than just a handful of professors who are obliged by their contract to fulfill the teaching duties. So one of the dark sides here is that with this non-independence comes dependence, meaning that when you are employed in a contract, like I am and many of my colleagues, obviously you behave also in alignment with your supervisor, and that's a good thing because harmony is always good in a job situation. But with it comes the feature that I heard also from many of my colleagues, that if there would really something to criticize or to proactively not align with, it is really hard for people that are dependent on the very same person to speak out and to say that. So often this is in the context, to be now more precise, of doing more tasks and jobs that you can handle. So that's a big problem, and that then leads to PhD students and postdocs being really, really overwhelmed with all those tasks aside of their main focus research project, and as they have no education in, for example, how to teach, how to use didactics to make their life easier, it's a feeling of free floating and just managing everything a little, just so. But it is pretty hard, and this feeling of not having everything under control, that can be already enough to break a person. If it's on long enough, the pressure will be so high that people crumble, and I think I'm not the only one who's seen that with colleagues happening. So the dependence factor within the system leads to people agreeing to more workload than they can handle. It can be the very same if you are employed not with a fixed term contract, but you always have some kind of boss, right? So even if you're a professor, you also have then the dean, and you have the president, and you have the upper political interests of the organization that you work for. So it's not that you are ever free. Also, entrepreneurs are not necessarily free because they have to see what their customers want. But it is different when a young person that hasn't experienced a different world outside academia is dependent financially in such a short time frame. We talk about 2 years, 3 years, on the supervisor, and obviously you say mostly yes to things that are put onto you job-wise. Supervise these students, help in this lab course, can you do this lecture for me, do this review together with X and Y, write this method section for the paper, do this, let's dive into this new project, make a pilot experiment, this is a collaborator, they want to have this experiment done in a month, and so on and so forth. And there comes the competences that we gain as researchers. We are very, very good usually in handling and managing different jobs at a time. Being also aware of the competences, that's the next point I want to make. But let me first insert a little aspect about the not being independent and the mental health aspect. But I'm going from mental health away to health. As an example, when you get sick, then you get a sick leave when you're really sick and you can't work, and that's normal, and you should do that, and everybody should do that, and I did that when I was coming down with our favorite kind of infectious disease since 2019. I had it twice in 2025, and I was bound to bed a full week in spring, and then like 7.5 months later, just recently, had a little bit of immune protection apparently, so I was only bound to bed for about 3 days. But as you know, the aftermath and the recovery phase, it takes quite long. So my doctor wanted me to, and I was clearly not back to 100% functionality, and my doctor said, please come next week again and let's see if the cough is 100% gone, and if you feel really good, and you rather take care of yourself and take a few more days of sick leave and go for walks, eat well, and go back to work only if you are really healthy. And I didn't do it. I went back to work, and I talked to my boss and said, I would rather work because I have to prepare for the lab course, I have to talk to students, I have to supervise my student, but I'm not 100% fully functional, so maybe we can arrange that I'm working like 3/4, or I'm just coming a little later and leaving earlier, and he agreed. So that's good when you have a good communication on that level with your direct supervisor. And I appreciate that a lot. The dark side of this is, should I have done it? Should I not stayed home? Well, if I see myself, and if I will edit this video and watch it also later, I will say, yeah, stupid. I mean, I'm I'm now 3 weeks not 100% functional instead of being away a week longer at home, really recovering and then being functional again. But being sick and still working, that's just also a common feature in science. And I'm not saying it's good, I just acknowledge the fact that it is like it is. We are a little bit the managers and CEOs of our research projects and all the projects that come with a job, and the difference is just that our paycheck is a little smaller. The responsibility is also smaller, don't get me wrong, like for CEOs or managers. But the pressure that we feel is the same. And that's why even if I would stayed at home with a sick leave, I would have read papers, worked on my current manuscript that needs some work. I would have interacted by email with my student and people that then step in to supervise her. So I would have still worked from home and not really recovered. And that's a bad thing that a lot of us know how it is. You are 100% scientist and your mind is always there. Let's stick with that, and let's rather talk about, this is a pretty long video now, what is the way out? The way out, I have a very clear message for myself, and I have a very clear message for you, and that's how I have defined this way out of the dark side, of the dark areas that accompany my scientific life all along. And this way out is know my competences, be aware of my competences, find purpose, and the purpose can change. The purpose was my research project during my PhD. The purpose was different when I was in my postdoc phase, and the purpose changed now. The purpose now is really to do this, to share my competences and my growth with you out there, with other people that are in similar situations or that will come into similar situations. And the word growth also is very important, because purpose alone is not enough. You have to have this feeling of growing. And when there is an area like not resulting in the next best job in this stage, you have to change and you figure out where you can grow more. And I decided many years ago, 8 years ago already, that I want to grow my teaching capacities and the teaching competences. And I didn't want to do this just for myself. I was diving into that already with the thought that in science specifically, we are scientists and we don't have too much, time is the wrong word, but the science mind works different than the humanities mind, for example. The next generation of scientists will matter so much, because this new world that we are creating at the moment, the transition phase that we are in, it will change a lot. And it's this massive, huge amount of data, it's artificial intelligence, and it's the problems that the world faces at this point in the future. So the next generation of scientists, they will have to have a solid and robust education. And they are educated by us, scientists of today. And a lot of us, they do education, but they don't really know how to do a high quality education that will really stick and will have impact for the next generation. So that's where my purpose is. I would like to create a community together with you, interested ones out there, and to focus on how a scientist can have a absolutely fulfilled scientific life and still make a huge impact when they teach, by having strategies and rules at hand how to educate. Because education is different than giving scientific talks and talking to peers, basically. Also, the next generation of students is getting different. We have a totally different youth that was growing up in a different world, and this also needs to be addressed, this gap between the educators and the students. It was always there, but I feel it's getting a little bit bigger. Helicopter. So The way out of the dark side is for me knowing that it's a lot of gray there, a few sparkles of white, it's not all black, and to have a plan for making decisions, sticking with it, and then learning really and growing and finding a purpose. And my biggest wish is to grow a community. I don't think that having a community with similar interests is something that we get automatically. It's a rare opportunity, and networks and communities make us definitely stronger. And now the sun comes even out. It's beautiful to have a little bit of autumn sun in the face. Good that I went for the walk to talk to you about this topic. My wish is to build a community of teaching interested people in a worldwide context, because we all teach based on the same didactic principles. We teach better and we teach with impact. And I would like to make a small contribution by saving you time, so that within the busy framework of your academic life, you have early on a plan. The only way out is to accept the dark phases. Ideally, you have a partner that supports you, but also that is not taken for granted. It's luck to have a partner that supports an academic life, and if you are two academics that found each other, it can be very hard at times. The way out is to grow, to seek opportunities, to seek purpose. Life in general can be hard, because we all want to find purpose, we all want to find a community, we all need the feeling of belonging. And in a job like academia, where you also travel a lot when you're young and you can see the world and you don't have roots, and when you want to be a professor you cannot pick the place where you are. Most of the time you have to be really flexible and open. You have to find this place of belonging in yourself. There's enough food, mind food, soul food, purpose food for all of us out there. And yes, we need a little bit motivation, and I love to watch motivational videos to grab me out of my spiraling that I'm having sometimes when there is a dark phase. And it helps then very much to refocus on what's important in life, and with purpose comes eventually happiness. Okay, this was a very long video. I'm looking forward to edit it, and I see you in the next. Happy teaching!